Hi everyone. I'm doing an extra video today because of the fact that we had a challenge getting the video up last week. So today's video is actually just going to be a tutorial on how to do the Limon floor work in a chair. So you could do this sitting on a couch if you want to do it on the couch or at the edge of your bed, but actually having a firm seat is a little bit easier. So if you look behind me, I've got a good old-fashioned chair just right here. And you're going to start by just grabbing a seat on the chair. So here we go. So rather than sitting with my pelvis right up against the back of the chair, I'm sitting just a little bit further forward on the chair. The reason why I'm doing that is because if I have short legs, and if I sit too far back, my feet kind of hover off of the floor. So you really want to make sure that you're feeling comfortable in wherever it is that you're sitting so that you can be right up on top of your sits bones. Again, that's the bony bits that we sit right on top of. If you kind of ground around, you might be able to find them. So we want to sit right on top of our sits bones. Imagining, I know we've got this beautiful chair back, but we're not going to use it. Imagining that we have a beautiful wall that's right behind us. My shoulders are spreading back against the wall. The back of my head is against the wall. And it might feel a little bit like you're pitching back in space, but really feeling that plumb line dropping right down through the center. So here's my feet. They're flat on the ground, so I'm not letting them hop up like this or kind of fall off to the side. I'm really keeping a parallel traction between my knees, right over top of my toes, and sitting right up on top of it. All right, so now that we're set up with our feet planted on the ground, our knees are right over top of our ankles. The knees are facing straight, toes are parallel, as if they were on train tracks. My sits bones are right down underneath me. I can kind of feel them if I give a little wiggle. I'm imagining that my pelvis is really heavy on that chair, and my upper body has room to kind of float freely, like that beautiful mist that we had earlier today. If you want to, you're welcome to have your hands on either side of the chair just to give you a little bit of stability. Feel free to kind of give that little placement whenever you need to, but otherwise we're just letting them hang heavy. We're going to start with our successional curls. For our successional curls, I'm going to drop my chin towards my chest, and I'm going to imagine that from the top of my head I start to feel that successional folding of the vertebrae down my spine. I do 2 curls forward. It goes 1, 2, 3, 4, coming back, up to the top. We do that twice. You can have your hands on your lap if you want. Ideally they're beside us. So as we go 1, 2, 3, 4, back, floating up to the top. If that all the way down feels too much for you, you can also just keep it as a smaller curve. 1, 2, 3, 4, coming back up 5, 6, 7, 8. You don't have to go full forward curve. That's perfectly fine. So we do 2 forward. Then we're going to go up and over to the right. Up and over. I'm imagining there's a big giant wine barrel. I go up and over 1, 2, 3, 4. This is where you might want to feel that opposition. Really thinking about that opposite waist. We come back up 5, 6, 7. Just get there to go other side. 2, 3, 4. The waist, the ribs, the shoulders, head is last. Then we do the whole thing again. We're going to add our arms. We curve forward 1, 2, 3, and a 4. Coming up, my arms cross over the front of my body, and it's like I'm peeling my shirt off. 5, 6, scapula melts, and we widen. 7, 8, coming down 1, 2, 3, 4. My arms come up. 5, crossing over. 7, 8. I'm imagining that my arms are sliding up along the wall as I go up and over. 1, 2, 3, 4. Cross the body. Woo! Up and 1, 2, 3, 4. Cross the body and float up. Then we do our curves. Our rolls. I do curve forward once to the side. Coming up. Curve front. Roll side. Come up. Going side. Rolling front. Coming up. Side. Rolling front. Coming up. Again, if you need to reduce the extremeness of your curve, if you need to make it a little bit more of a gentle curve, that's perfectly fine as well. You can just do curve, side, and just keep it in the ribs. That's perfectly fine. Then we reach out onto coming in for our breathings. Now, we're not going to worry about legs, but what you can do with our breathings is give a little pressure down into the floor as you come up. 1, 2, 3, 4, exhale. And really, I'm thinking about that exhale coming from right down. Because I'm seated on that chair, you can imagine that it's almost coming from underneath of the chair. So it's coming up. That's where the breath is coming from, is up here. is where the exhale happens. So it's starting all the way down right in the bottom half of my pelvis in what we call our pelvic floor. So I'm imagining that that pelvic floor is really pushing the air up and out. So it's from here, this beautiful vertical position, my pelvic floor pushes, and that allows this little curving and opening to happen in my legs. Open, and if I was to imagine pressing my toes into the floor as I curve down, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. We're going to do 4 breathings. We're going to do 2 breathings just with a vertical torso, and then we're going to add 2 breathings with our arms. Arms are the exact same principle. 1, 2, the scapula melt down the spine to allow that widening to take place. 3, 4. Exhale, point the toes into the floor, coming down. 5, 6, 7, 8. So just so that you can see what's happening with my feet, I'm just going to change the camera angle really quickly here. But my feet aren't actually doing anything in terms of that flex and that point that we do when we're normally on the floor. It's just imagining it taking place, and that imagining allows engagement of tonality of our muscles and kind of a specification of a neural pathway to allow a more efficient engagement within our legs and our core as we're doing this exhaling. So I'm just going to pause the video for a second, and I will adjust so that you can see what's happening with my feet, and then we'll come back to doing our body. We'll do the whole thing where we curve, curve, side, side, curve with the arms, side, side, rolling body, rolling body, rolling body, rolling body, out for 2, coming in for our breathings, and then we'll go right away into our breathing exercise as well. I'm just going to let the song play through. Again, if you want to grab seated on the floor, you're welcome to do it seated on the floor. I'm going to model in a chair so that we get an experience and an opportunity to see what it looks like in a chair. I'm also going to limit my range of motion a little bit. I'll try my best. I might forget a little bit, but I'm going to try and limit my range of motion so that you can see that this can be really beautiful and juicy, and it doesn't have to be the full extreme of a range of motion as well. So here we go. So as I'm doing my breathings, I'm thinking about if I'm relaxed forward for my breathings, my torso are relaxed. As I come for my exhale, I'm really pushing down into the floor. I go 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhaling, I'm thinking about those toes pushing into the floor. Push those toes into the floor. 2, to find that curve. Breathing, heels go into the floor, push the toes into the floor to find that curve. When we add the arms, we're still feeling that heel into the floor, exhaling with the toes going down, 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 down. The heels go into the floor, exhaling with the toes curve down, 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 down. So as you can see, it's barely anything. I'm just thinking about putting my heels and putting my toes. There's not actually heels going in, toes going in. I'm not seeing movement with my feet. I'm just feeling that sensation of pushing down into my heels, pushing down into my toes. It's really, really subtle. Take the head curves forward. Here we go. We go 1, 2. That was fantastic. It can feel a little bit on the chair sometimes. Please, at any point in time, do not hesitate to hold on if that's something that you're feeling that you need, and you can always reduce your range of motion. It just feels a bit too precarious for you. You want to make sure that you're always feeling safe and comfortable. I was talking about knitting or connecting the ribs in the front. What can often happen, especially when we're in a chair, just because it becomes such a familiar place for us in terms of how we're sitting down, is that we can start to, I'm just going to go sideways so you can see a little bit better. We start to stick our ribs out a little bit, and we start to get this sort of arching in our back. And what I mean by knitting our ribs in the front is that those two, if you kind of just feel around underneath, those where our ribs come up and connect into our sternum, you can feel that the rib cage kind of comes down and around like this. The sort of lower ribs that are a little bit closer in, you want to imagine, it's all about imagery. Imagine that there's a magnet on either side, and that magnet is going to draw closer together. They're going to get closer together. And all that does, that micro engagement of those magnets getting closer together, is it just helps to reduce this kind of big back arching and really allow our fronts to melt and soften forward. So the magnets come forward in space, and then those ribs just melt down into our belly. Super, super small. Beautiful. All right, so now that we've found that beautiful connecting and that melting of the ribs in the front, we're going to explore our rebounds. I was talking to my granddad because I sent him the video of the last Limon floor work that we did, and he said, "You're crazy if you think that I'm going to be able to do that with my body." He's 92. He could do it with his body. But it made me realize that I modeled it a little bit too extreme, and I think that I'm going to try and model it a little bit less intensely. Really, truly, honestly, the fall, yes, we're exploring the fall, and I happen to have a larger range of motion just because I've been studying this material for so long, but your fall might not feel or look as extreme as mine does. That does not mean that you are doing it correctly. We are really finding that moment of releasing our musculature, releasing that engagement, and then finding that moment where we connect at the very, very bottom of it, and we feel that quick twitch fiber that happens. It's sort of that moment where you're walking along and your ankle rolls and you go whoop and you manage to catch yourself. It's that same kind of idea of that really quick engagement of our muscles. So it's playing back and forth with those two things, which is really, really important. As we start to age, we start to lose some of that tonality in our muscles, and this can help re-explore some of that tonality. So again, that being said though, please do feel free to reduce the extremity of the movement if you need to have a sort of more contained experience within it. I'm going to attempt to model a more contained experience. For our rebounds, we're actually just doing the fall. So the same thing that we did on the floor last week, the same kind of principle. So at the top of my head, my chin's going to drop in, and that's going to allow me to fall on count 1. I recover 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and is really important. Count and. I'm imagining that a giant geyser, or just like out at Toe Hill, the big giant blowhole. Water blows out the top of my head, and at the same time, my pelvis drops and gets heavier in space. So I get this and so that I have somewhere to fall, and I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm going to do this twice with my legs parallel, twice with my legs extended, twice with my legs out in second position. For those of us on a chair, like me, we do 4 times with our legs in front of us and 2 times with our legs opening wide to the side. Now, when we open wide to the side, it does not have to be all the way on either side of your chair. Really, all that's happening is I'm imagining that I'm trying to close the doors behind me on my pelvis, close those doors, and that allows my knees to slide open in space. So it's actually really small. It's not about going flat side, flat like a wall. It's a little bit hard to see at this angle. So I'm going to turn my chair so you can see how much I'm cheating. It's not cheating. So my pelvis drops in space, my blowhole goes up really, really high, and my knees open. I'm imagining that I'm closing those doors behind me. So it's just these muscles right here are going to slide along the backspace. It's not anatomically what happens at all, but that's the image that I use. So I go and
Now for this one, so it's just tiny. See how little it is? I'm not going flat side. It's just tiny, tiny, tiny. Yeah, beautiful. For this one, it's less scary on the floor because we get to bring our hands in front of us and we have somewhere to actually fall. For this one, if you need to, you're welcome to just keep your hands on your knees and then slide up. If you feel comfortable letting your hands fall all the way forward and fall, you can do that too. If you need to wrap them behind you and hold on to your chair and you go and fall, that's also an option too. So don't be afraid to actually use your chair and hold on to it a little bit if that's something that you need to do for your body. Same thing for the falls when our legs are in parallel position as well. So we are sitting, again, same thing, our nice beautiful train tracks. Pelvis is heavy on the floor. We're feeling everything floating up above us. Hot air filling our head, allowing it to rise up, 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 up. And is super important. The and count. Here we go. 5, 6, 7, 8, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Legs extended around the floor, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Second position this time, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Beautiful. We're going to do a stretch. Just follow along with me. It doesn't matter what it looks like. We go up the side. Curving front. Other side. Coming up. Same thing. Stop. Curving front. Really plant those feet in the floor. Other side. Floating up. I'm right on the edge of my chair. 2 counts. Side. Curving front. Other side. Plant those feet. Floating up, 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 up. Other way. 1. Curving front. Other side. Floating up, up, up. Single count. So 1. Front. Side. Up. Side. Curve. Side. Up. Side. Curve. Side. Up. Tuck the arm. Tuck. Curve. Side. Up. Closing. All right, we're adding one more thing on this week. These are our swings. So just like a swing on the playground, where we drop from all the way up really super high, and then we suspend, drop, suspend. We're playing with that idea. So it happens in 3 counts. Count 1, we drop and we get all the way to the other side, and then we suspend for 2 and 3. So suspend does not mean I stay there, stay there. Suspend means I keep reaching, 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 reaching out in space. So I'm really thinking about those oppositional energies pulling apart, pulling apart, pulling apart, pulling apart, pulling apart. For me, my oppositional energies have to do with my pelvis and my head. So if I was going up and over to the left side of my body, or the right side of my body rather, my head is pulling in one direction and my pelvis is pulling in the other. So my head's reaching out long one way and my pelvis is reaching down in the opposite direction. Same thing on the opposite side. We start with just our head. No other part of my body is going to move. I go drop my chin and swing all the way to the other side and count 1. And I reach that head out in space and reach that shoulder down in space for 2, 3. 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. On fait ça 4 fois. We do that 4 times. Then I'm going to bring my shoulders into it. So all it is a drop and a suspension and widening of the shoulders. Drop, suspend. So this shoulder's reaching this way, this shoulder's reaching this way. Suspend. I do that 4 times. Drop, suspend. Then I'm going to let my rib cage get involved. So now this means that it's as if I was rolling right over top of my sternum. So rolling over my sternum and my ribs. 1, and then this is reaching opposition, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Then if you want to, if this is enough for you, you can just hang out here. If you're ready, you can do a full side bend. And we do swing, 2, 3, swing, 2, 3. So we do 4 times the head, 4 times the shoulders, 4 times the ribs, 4 times the whole body, or 8 times the ribs. That's perfectly fine as well. If you want to add an additional challenge to this, on the 4 times the full torso, or the 6, 7, 8, no, 5, 6, 7, 8 time, if you're just doing the ribs, you can also add an arm. I like to think of the arm as a sneeze. So my torso does the and my arm does the chew. Chew, chew, chew. So all it is it's just reaching, and it's adding to that sense of oppositional pull through my rib cage. It feels delicious if you want to try it. Bring your head to the right side. 2, 2, 3. Here we go. 3, 2, 3. Now the shoulders. Now the ribs. Now full torso. 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3. Still hanging forward. Oh, really think about that pelvis dropping heavy in the back. Let's feel the sits bones heavy. And you're going to really explore rolling up 1 vertebrae at a time. Feeling each one stack one on top of the other. You can close your eyes if you want to. Let your shoulders expand across the space. Scapula melting down towards your pelvis. And in the front, your rib cage melting down towards your pelvis. Let your head float up high in space, like a dandelion poking its head out of the soil. Thanks for joining me, everybody. I will see you tomorrow with additions to the Limon floor.